Britain came 33rd. Even though our stillbirth rate has reduced slightly in the last year, that small decline has been outperformed in other countries. Tonight, Panorama brings you 3 pioneering doctors with big ideas, whose methods could change everything. Each is achieving spectacular drops in the stillbirth rate. So why are their methods not being rolled out across the country so that all can benefit?
To some degree, the NHS is a bit of an oil tanker, which, if you need to sort of change practice, is not easy to do. It takes time.
Okay, so we're looking at baby's head down here. Even if I were to produce a fantastic randomized controlled study now to show that we can make a change, the evidence would suggest that it takes something like 10 to 20 years before practice changes.
See that white line? That bit is done. And then we just need
Britain is well known in many aspects of medicine and many aspects of science for producing pioneering new developments. It is a sad day when the pioneers that are producing the new evidence are not able to practice their discoveries in this country.
Obstetrician Professor Jason GARDOSI travels the world from his base at the Perinatal Institute in Birmingham. Today, he's on a mission in Scotland to try to convince midwives and obstetricians to sign up to his programme for reducing stillbirths in low-risk mothers using a low-tech and low-cost procedure.
One of the main things we were up against when we started this a few years ago was that most stillbirths were classified as unexplained. The implication of that is unexplained equals unavoidable. For us, each stillbirth is a tragedy, which is like a plane crash. And we wanted to investigate this as you would do in the airline industry. For us, the flight recorder, the black box, was the case notes of the unfortunate mother who had this outcome.
Professor GARDOSI and his team trawled through the case notes of hundreds of stillbirths. They found that, far from being unexplained, many of the deaths were avoidable and had come about as a result of a failure in the mother's placenta. In the womb, the baby receives food, nutrients and oxygen from the placenta. If there's a problem and the blood flow is abnormal, the baby's growth is likely to slow. The challenge is to spot which babies are struggling and save them before it's too late. Professor GARDOSI tries to identify babies that are struggling, not through invasive surgery or even through scans, but through a clever piece of software and something that most of us have in our own homes: a tape measure. A midwife trained by Professor GARDOSI takes us through how his procedure works. Sue is trying to detect any problems with the growth of Ruby's baby at 31 weeks, and the chart predicts the size a healthy baby should be.
This is Ruby's individualised growth chart that was produced at the beginning of her pregnancy, and this chart has been developed using her height, her weight at the beginning of pregnancy, her ethnic origin, and how many babies that she's had.
Because all that, including ethnic origin, dictates what the size you expect the baby to be.
Absolutely, yes.
And if it falls outside these contours, then what?
We may see the baby's growth has slowed, it could stay the same, or possibly suddenly increase. If I saw any of these, I would be referring Ruby for a scan in the main antenatal clinic.
If a growth problem is detected, the mother is scanned to establish the cause. OK, so this is where it was on the chart last time you were measured. And we're going to measure again. Are you happy to be measured?
Yes.
Right, well, let's do it then.
I take my tape measure and I measure her bump to the symphysis pubis, and I take that measurement. which on here is 29 centimetres. So Ruby is now 31 weeks, so we plot 29 centimetres, which is nicely just about on the 50th centile.
It's right in the middle, isn't it?
It is.
Almost perfect.
Almost perfect.
Professor GARDOSI's charts haven't won everybody over, despite the fact that hospitals which have adopted his methods in the UK have seen their stillbirth rates drop by up to 22%. His results were peer-reviewed and published in a specialist medical journal. But still, about a third of British hospitals haven't signed up to his growth assessment protocol, despite the low cost. He estimates it's only 50 pence per pregnancy.
BBC Radio Berkshire, it's Anne Diamond.
Thanks very much indeed. Yes, I'm Anne Diamond. Special programme for you today about stillbirths. Every year, 3,000 babies in this country are stillborn, making it one of the highest rates in the developed world and
It's not the first time there's been a problem rolling out a potential lifesaver for babies across the UK. One summer morning in 1991, TV presenter Anne Diamond found her baby boy, Sebastian, dead in his cot.
I went into Sebastian's bedroom and I could see he was in his cot, face down, one little arm sticking out between the bars of the cot. Nothing unusual there until I went over and felt his arm, and it was stone cold. And I then went to pick him up and he was like a stiff little statue. And I knew immediately that he was dead and had been dead for a few hours.
Just 4 months old, Sebastian had succumbed to cot death. There was already a study underway in New Zealand which found you could cut 50% of cot deaths by turning your baby on its back. Even so, the British government of the day never told mothers. They were waiting for more data, more proof.
The Department of Health here at the time said, well, hang on, we haven't really got the data to prove it. We think it might work, but we can't prove it.
Well, what I later found was that our professionals in this country did know what was going on in New Zealand. But me, living in London, I didn't know that. Why not? And I found that the professionals in our country were obsessed with wanting more and more evidence. How come me, as a mum, was left ignorant when, if I'd happened to live in New Zealand, my baby might still be alive? I don't think I'll ever forgive the British government.
Wednesday, October the 28th, you're watching Good
Anne went into campaigning mode, going on TV and radio to demand change.
Cot death is comparatively rare, but there are few things more tragic.
She made her own advert and finally managed to sting the government into action.
The Department of Health's new leaflet explains how anyone who looks after a young baby can help reduce the risk of cot death.
How many babies' lives were saved?
Well, we reckon that certainly within the first few years, 15,000 babies' lives were saved.
Incredible.
It was incredible.
Now she wants to get involved again, this time with stillbirths. She's invited Professor GARDOSI onto her show to give his message to the listeners of Radio Berkshire.
Are you able to tell yet how many you can save? What sort of a difference will this make in numbers terms?
We've done it in the West Midlands, and then we've done it in several other regions that have picked up the training program. Overall, in the whole country, we are estimating if everybody picked up this fairly simple but standardized evidence-based method, we can save 1,000 stillbirths each year.
That is unbelievable. Why aren't we doing something about this? Why isn't every hospital? I mean, it's just so simple. It's easy to carry out. You can train the professionals to do it.
Back in London, Samantha, at 34 weeks pregnant, has arrived at a specialist unit at St George's Hospital to see if the blood flow into her placenta is worsening and putting her baby at risk. The consultant who will examine her is Professor Baski Thiliganathan, one of the country's leading obstetricians.
Hi, Baski. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
I hope you don't mind me sitting in on this.
No, you're welcome. Good to see you. Come on, have a seat.
This piece of equipment, available in most hospitals, can visualize and measure the blood flow between Samantha's